Live. Oh,
And we're live. Hi everyone.
hello.
It's real. It's real talk again. Beverly Briggs and Kristen Brooke is here to just chat with you a little bit again this evening. And you would have seen the topic on mask. There are so many different things we mask out here. And we pretend, we put on this smile. Hi, Facebook user. Somebody say hi, Christina and Beverly. Hi.
Hello.
Can you tell us who's saying hi? For some reason, we don't see the names on this. She said you can just pop in your name so we can know who's saying hi,
Right, who is it?
so we can shout out to you. So we go out there and we put on this face, and everybody believe that everything is good. I always say it, and to me it is just as shocking to me as it is to you. Crystal James. Hi, Crystal James.
That's
It's
my girl. Hey,
great to have you locked
Crystal.
in this with us this evening. And this is a reminder to our viewers. We want to hear from you. So you just pop in your comments in the chat, and we would shout you out. We would read your comments, and in that way, you would be allowed to join our discussion. And today is Unmask. Now we have to wear a face mask. And you hear people saying all kind of thing. Face mask is making you more sick than if you don't wear it. If you wear it whole day, it could cause your lungs to collapse and all different kind of things. But there's one thing that always comes in my mind every time I hear people speak about that. The fact that many of us wear masks that is killing us on the inside, mask that is shutting us out from the world. They can't. When I wear that mask, especially when I come back to Tobago, where I am right now, a lot of persons don't make me out. Just yesterday I met somebody that I know very well, and I was speaking to her, Christine, and she was like, "Who are you?" And I have to take off the mask for her to see. And she's like, "Oh, hey, so long I haven't seen you." And that is how it is. A lot of times we have this mask on that persons don't even know who we are. I always am shocked about the way that I actually literally fell apart in public within myself, and still was so much together that nobody knew what was going on. And this is something we're going to talk about this evening, about feeling the need to mask ourselves with, I ask you, hi, how you going? Blessed and highly favored. You
Right.
beat up on the inside, but from the time you walk out that door, that face go,
It's kind of like how I said when you go to work and they're like, oh, you're on stage. You need to put
mm-hmm,
that smile on. And in hospitality,
right.
we do it often where we're like, hi. And
Hmm.
inside, you're like, oh, I can't believe I have to be here. Yeah.
You know, don't talk to me. Don't, please, somebody, don't talk to me. I remember there was one time, Christina, I was so angry also that, nobody around would have known, because I get along with people naturally. And I'm a people person. Yet still there was something inside of me screaming, please, somebody today, mash my toe, please mash my corn, please mash my corn. And I would literally see myself beating people to a pulp. Seriously. But that was so well masked.
Mhm.
And that was killing me on the inside, literally killing me on the inside, because bitterness does nothing for you, right? Bitterness only, I mean, people could have look at me and see it. I was aging. Like literally, my mother and I have about the same amount of gray hairs in our head.
Wow.
And that's what masking does.
Hmm. Hmm. On the flip side of that, do you ever think that sometimes we need a mask in order to be able to hold it together for our own mental health, sanity, and stability? And then eventually the mask, you have to work towards the mask being able to come off.
Hi, good night. Somebody said hi, good night, y'all. Whoever's saying hi, we want to call you out by name. All we are seeing is Facebook users. So when you say good night, just put your name so that we can call you out by name. And we're so glad to have you on tonight. Yes, I was thinking about that just today, and we have learned that you have to take on positive attitudes. You have to think positive. You have to put positive things within you. And so when you go out, yes, you're making a choice to think about the positive, to say positive. But that is totally different to not admitting that you are where you are at the point in time. Because I am actually dealing with what I'm going through. I may be speaking to a counselor. I am working on what I'm listening to, what I'm watching, what I'm saying, as opposed to I am saying these positive things just because I don't want persons out there to know what's going on. It's different,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. But sometimes, I mean, I feel like when I went through some of my darkest days, that's what saved me, the mask of having to smile for work, and then
Mm-hmm.
crying in private because it's not socially acceptable to have
Right.
a meltdown just at random wherever you feel like you need to cry. And why is that? I don't know.
Ishika Burton Mac. I hope I call your name correct, Ishika.
Yashika.
She said, hi, good night. She says, if
Hey
you
girl.
faking it, you make it. However, it's purposeful and you are aware. Right. And that's what I'm speaking about. You have to be aware. Hi, Pratibadi.
Hey Pratiba.
Yes. So sometimes we think too much about what society thinks. We really, really do think too much about society. We do have to, I mean, I can't go to work and be crying on myself.
Right, no.
And that's why at times we have to know within ourselves that we have to take that time off. Listen, at the end of the day, if I die, life goes on as if I never existed. Everything gets done. There's someone who is going to fill my place where I'm working. If I have children, there's someone who is going to take care of my children. If I have a husband, he's going to find a wife or he's going to go on with his life. Life goes on. So we have to reach a place where we don't feel the need to go to work and we are crying and we have to put on a mask. We have to reach a place where we say, listen, I am special. I love myself. And because I love myself that much, I am going to take this time that I need to
Mm.
be able to adjust what is going on in my life.
Yeah, and that's a process, right? So
Right.
as people go through a process of learning to love themselves, it's a process of healing. And that takes time. And that repetition of telling yourself who you truly are and getting back to the greatness and the magnificence that you have inside yourself you you for a while may have to fake it to make it. Um, but you as you're faking it, it's actually your reality that always was and always will be. It's just that we start to believe the negative things and we have to change that mindset and change what we think about ourselves in order to be able to take that mask off and feel whole without a layer of feeling fake.
Right. So as Yashika rightly said, your faking must have purpose.
Yeah.
It must not just be for not looking bad or saving face.
Mhm.
It must be that it must be that you give me a second, please. My laptop is oh god.
Share with us.
Yes. I'm sorry with the hustle. I plugged in the laptop, but I did not plug it into the wall. Yes. Yes. So it must be that whatever I'm doing, I'm taking into consideration my health. It's not that I'm taking into consideration what people will think. It's not that I'm taking into consideration how it looks, as opposed to my health. The Bible says, word says, I wish above everything that you prosper and be in good health. And our prosperity has to do with our health.
Yeah, I agree.
What I have, I
I thought you were gonna go somewhere else with that. I agree.
okay. So
Um,
Yashika says it's okay to be transparent, but transparency is when you are comfortable. So wear and do what what is comfortable for you and your
absolutely,
terms, no one else's but you. Right.
absolutely,
Yes.
absolutely.
Yes.
Mhm.
I believe that the first step is in recognizing that you're special and in loving you and recognizing that, hey, the best person that could love me is me. I think that's the first step. What do you think?
Yeah. Well, um, I agree with that to a point. I
Okay.
think when I think first when someone is like, say you're depressed, right? The first
Mm-hmm.
step is really understanding that you are depressed or that you are
Okay.
sad and that you are hurting and
Mm-hmm.
being able to recognize why is that,
Right.
and then also finding how you're going to get past that. And part of that is knowing that you want to be happy. First step after you realize, boom, I'm sad,
Right.
I'm depressed, like something is going on that needs
With
to be
me.
fixed. Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Addressing the issue.
yeah.
Yes, you're totally correct. You are totally correct. We're addressing the issue, you know. Um, but there's one thing that I was talking to with my friend today about. And I remember when I had the nervous breakdown, I was in a total different world. My reality
Mhm.
was totally different. And I couldn't figure out that I was sick because it was my reality. It was my reality. And come back to what we were talking about last week. It's so important for us to be available
Mhm.
for each other because imagine going through this. We see it on TV, right? We look at those people and we say, oh, crazy people, and we have all kind of labels that we put on persons, right? But imagine they are seeing people, police running them down. They believe in that persons are after them. And for us, we look at it and we say, okay, we just label it. And plenty times we don't sit down to realize, wow, this is someone's actual world. I mean, I am going to say to them
Right.
that this is not happening, but this is what they are experiencing.
Right. That's
How
where
do we deal
compassion.
and help persons who we meet that when we speak to them, what they are saying is so far from reality?
Well, like you said, it's their reality, right? So I
Right.
think for for a lot of people, we need to remember that compassion is so key and so important in relating to other people and to operate out of a place of love and
Mm-hmm.
trying to see others' perspectives. No one likes to be prejudged and no one likes to be judged, especially for something that is their reality. And perspective plays a very big part in it. Uh, okay, so I take this piece of paper, right? To you, it looks
Mm-hmm.
blank, right?
Yes.
Right? You'd say there's nothing on this paper. But
Right.
to me, I see a lot of writing on this paper. From my
Mm-hmm.
perspective, it's totally different.
Right.
So until we put ourselves in the shoes of another person and
Mm-hmm.
really try to understand their perspective and believe that what they're saying is true to them, then we're not really being compassionate. So I think that we have to take in consideration the perspectives that people are coming from. So if someone is sad, depressed, or their version of reality is not everyone else's version of reality,
Mm-hmm.
what they are telling us is their reality is probably true. And
Mm-hmm.
we need to not be so concerned about something is not right with their mind and that
Mm-hmm.
something is wrong with them, but something may not be right with their mind. How do we heal them? How do we help them? And that goes back to us being available. Last week, we
Right.
talked about being a resource for people. And
Mm-hmm.
we have to reach out a hand to someone if we truly are compassionate people. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
it's a calling that if you really truly are operating out of love,
Mm-hmm.
then you will be able to say, you know what, that perspective of what I think is nothing is something
Mm-hmm.
huge to them, right? You
Mm-hmm.
can be depressed and people not understand. Well, why would you be depressed about that? It's not that bad.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, your daughter's father died. I had this your father died. Well, you guys didn't get
Mm-hmm.
along anyway.
Hmm.
You shouldn't be sad about that. But my
Right.
heart hurts for my child.
Mm-hmm.
As a mother, your heart hurts no matter what. That's their father.
Right.
That is someone that I
Mm-hmm.
once loved. And
Mm-hmm.
to say I shouldn't feel, you're not understanding my perspective. Um,
Right.
so yeah. What do you think, Beverly?
Yes. And I'm saying also, let's unmask the labels that we have.
Mhm.
Because to be fair to some persons, they really don't know and they really don't understand. It has not come into the thoughts of a lot of persons that what these persons are going through is real to them. I was talking to my friend today and she was like, wow, she was like, I never really thought of it that way, because yes, we persons see the symptoms, the signs, the symptoms we watching, but oftentimes we don't really dive into these things to unmask them. What is the truth behind what we're seeing or what we label as depression?
Right,
What do persons really go through? How is it for them? Right? Because even with the lady, I had mentioned that a lady in my neighborhood had asked me about it due to the fact that someone had committed suicide, and she was, in her mind, it's like, you just have to reach this hopeless place. Um, you probably have to be always thinking negative. These are things that are out there. You could change your mindsets. You could think positive. You could be positive. You could choose. What about the situations where it is actually a hormonal imbalance? But how persons can treat to this if they don't understand the matrix really behind these things. I can never, after today, I was telling my friend, I thank God for what I've been through, Christine,
Right.
because I'm telling you, it was hell, but it brought me so close to understanding that I am really thankful for being able to have that depth of understanding. I really am. Because to me, without that, I would have not recognized how real it is to persons who are living it out there.
Yeah. 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 And when we're talking about sadness, depression, we're talking right now not just about crying. We're talking about the point of feeling like you've lost control of your emotions, correct, Beverly?
Right?
Um,
Mm-hmm.
which could come easily to someone, especially with a hormonal or a chemical imbalance.
Imbalance. Mm-hmm.
And I think that, yeah, you're right. We need to be careful about the labels and the way that we may judge or prejudge someone because they say that they have gone through an episode, or they are bipolar, or they are manic depressive, or they have a personality disorder. I mean, there's so many things that they could be diagnosed with, and they've literally gotten a
Mm-hmm.
diagnosis, right? And
Yes.
society says so many negative things about this. But
Mm-hmm.
if it were um, a lost arm or a lost leg, we would say, oh, well, we don't expect them to function and be able to hold something with two hands, right? You're not
Right.
going to give a man with one arm
Right.
the same heavy bag that you would give someone with
Mm-hmm.
two arms,
Yes. Yeah.
unless they say, I can, right? And
Mm-hmm.
we don't want to judge and say, that someone can't do something, but at the same time,
Mm.
we know that we don't want to give someone an undue burden, right? If someone
Yes.
doesn't have legs, we wouldn't ask them, please stand.
Right.
And we should be cognizant of the capabilities or the lack of
Lack of,
ability,
yes.
because
Mm-hmm.
someone is in a mental state that does not allow them to move forward. Um,
Right.
and that is really for a professional to be able to say they can get them through that.
Uh-huh.
Yes, we're motivational speakers. And yes, it is great for people to hear that message. But when it comes to health, that is for a
Mm-hmm.
healthcare professional.
And I'm so glad you say that because tonight we have a special guest on our program. This guest is really, really dear to me because she is no other than my sister. We have Dr. Kathy Ann Briggs. She has been working on the psychiatric ward for over a year now, probably over two. And
Yay.
she is here with us tonight just to give us a few tips about depression, how we recognize it, how we are able to
How to manage it?
how we, what's that?
How to manage depression?
Right? How we are able to manage it, prevent it. And she is here with me tonight, Dr.
Yay.
Kathian Briggs Paul. Dr. Kathian Briggs Paul. Okay, I shall get up and give my seat. Yes.
Hello.
Hi, good night.
Hello.
Good.
Thank you so much for joining us.
No problem. It's my pleasure. Thank you for inviting me. And I like, as my sister said, I've been in mental health for a few years, a few more years. It's about
Wow.
no,
I am getting
about five.
Mhm.
Yeah, about 5 years. And mental health is something that I'm passionate about. I believe that oh, until we get to the point where we're able to remove or get people to recognize the importance of taking away the stigma and having people be as open about their mental health as they are about heart disease or diabetes or anything like that. Until we get to that point, then we will continue to have high numbers of suicides. We will continue to have people struggling in silence, people wearing masks, as you know, the topic that you're discussing tonight. And so it's really important that we educate and that we let people know as much information as we can about mental health. And it's also important that people who have lived through and been survivors, that they talk about it and let others know that it's okay to talk about it. It is something as normal as a heart attack. You talk about it, you encourage people to get help.
Yes.
So, um, you wanted to ask me anything before I start talking about depression?
No, well, please go ahead. Tell us what depression is and like what some signs and
All right.
symptoms are and what we can do to prevent it if we can and what you
Okay.
know, what helps.
Yes. So, I like to start with why it's important more than anything else, because like Beverly was saying, a lot of people say just think positive, get up. Why it's important that we have this discussion about depression? It's because um, throughout the world it is being realized that mental illness is rising in frequency to the point where soon depression and other mental illness will be number one in the world for the disabilities. And in terms of years lived with different disabilities, depression is pretty high, almost to the top of that list, because there are so many people who suffer, a lot of them in silence. And what the employers, what people in the world fail to realize is that depression affects every area of your life. And so you have a person who's not as productive, who is unable to carry their weight in society, who now creates burden of responsibility on society in terms of meeting certain needs, and burden on co-workers who now have to pick up the slack. They in terms of at home, it creates problems as well, and not burden in terms of the person being a burden, but the illness is creating the burden, right? So
Right.
it's important that we talk about it because it also calculates the dollars. So countries will have to come up with more money to pay for all the disabilities and things like that, social services. So it is important that we talk about it in that regard as well. Um, so it affects across the board. People are affected, but women more than men. All right. And part of the reason that that is so obvious is, women will tend to talk more as well. So women will more come forward than a man to say that they're depressed. But even regardless of that, women tend to have a higher rate of depression than men. Um, and when we talk about depression, when we talk about things to look for, we generally the first when you speak from the perspective of the doctor who's seeing the patient with mental illness, the first two things that we are looking at is the mood and your interest in life. If those two things, if you don't have lost interest in life, and life is no longer meaningful, no joy out of it, or your mood is consistently low most of the day, most days of the week, then those two things are two of the most important things. But there are other things to look for to know if within yourself or your loved one. So you look at things like your appetite. Is it that you start all of a sudden eating too much or eating too little? And you look at your sleep, sleeping too much, sleeping too little, or having interrupted sleep. Um, we also look at your thought pattern. Some people start getting a lot of negative thoughts. Some people start getting thoughts, excessive guilt, simple things that they may have been wrong, but there's an excessive guilt that they just can't seem to get rid of, constantly talking about it, bringing it up, saying, I'm sorry. Indecisiveness, a person who normally on the ball, suddenly they're not sure, they're questioning everything. Those are some of the things. Anxiety is another symptom that in of itself is a separate mental illness, but a lot of times people with depression suffer with anxiety as well. The inability to concentrate. And you also have things like where people start moving either really fast or really slow. So, in terms of depression, it generally is slow. So, they're slower at everything. It takes them much longer to do their chores or get a job done that they would normally be on the ball with. It takes them much longer. And the interest, the things that normally they would participate in, no longer interest, withdrawn, pull away from people. And when it comes to young people now, specifically, there's certain things you look at. So they also get withdrawn, but they may not tend to withdraw from everyone, but they may withdraw from some people and continue their relationship with other people. You notice they may get irritable as well, or they start developing habits that are doing things they're not accustomed doing. And so those are the things that you look at with young people, with children, because children do suffer from depression as well. If they start being acting out or no longer wanting to play, doing very really poorly in their schoolwork, these are the things that could clue you in that maybe at the time they're feeling sad. And a lot of people are able to tell you, I am feeling sad. It's a sadness that's not going away. All right. Um, when should I? Oh, and I left out the most concerning symptom, suicidal thoughts. All right. So it sometimes it's not suicidal in the terms of I want to kill myself, but it may be, "Ah, why do I have to wake up? What is the point? You
Mm.
know?" And they just lie and wish every morning they wish, okay, I wish I didn't open my eye this morning. Or they may have suicidal thoughts, but no plan. When it has gotten to the point of having a plan, then things are really bad. And so, in times like that, you also have to look at whether if this person has been sad for a while and then all of a sudden they seem happy, things are looking good. It's even bigger risk that they could be on the verge of suicide
Mm.
because now they have nothing to lose. They've made their decision and they're going to end it all. And so all of a sudden you may see a change. All right. For a person who has been down for a while, that is very concerning. So you look at that as well, right? Um, and so whenever a person mentions suicide in any form or fashion, that there's no reason for me to be here. Anything that could suggest suicide, it's an immediate, it's like a 911 call for mental health, right? And we have a responsibility to, even if we think they're just talking, follow it up and get them help and let a professional decide that they're just talking versus um, if there's a real risk. Um, so those are some of the symptoms that we would look at. How do we treat it? Once you, from our perspective, we say if you have at least 5 symptoms, including depressed mood and or loss of interest in life, you would be diagnosed with clinical depression. But sometimes you may not meat sometimes. Okay, sorry about that.
You're okay.
Hi then, king. My apologies.
No worries. It's real
Sometimes
life. It's real
you,
life.
you may not have all of those criteria. You may not have everything. Does it mean that you're not depressed, that you're not going through a depressive illness? No, it doesn't, right? So but those are just how, that's how we would say, okay, this is how we diagnose. But when we diagnose, how do we treat? There is basically three areas that we focus on: medicine, psychology or psychologists, and then community uh, and family involvement, so social interventions. So everyone know about a lot about drugs, the drugs that we use, the medicines that we use. They A lot of times people see mental health institutions as being focused on just the medication. But the truth is, especially for depression, medication is only part. It doesn't solve the problem. It's only part of it. It's an important part, but all the other aspects need to also be taken care of. So our medications that focus, most of them focus on serotonin. That's one of the hormones that help in lifting our mood. And so most of them focus on serotonin. And we tend to give once a day for most of them. And they work after 2 weeks and they are efficacious. Sorry, they show great efficacy. But along with the medicines, we also have psychotherapy. And it's a very important, because remember, with depression, you have a lot of negative thoughts coming. You need help to sort through, to help yourself start thinking positively again, getting a different perspective on things. And so the psychotherapy is very important. Cognitive behavioral therapy that helps you to look at your thinking and as a result change your behavior. That is an important part of the psychological therapy. But when we look at, and I didn't talk about risk factors, which is very important, but given the time constraints, I wouldn't say that much about risk factors. But when we look at the social interventions, you have to look at the risk factors to know which social interventions is necessary. Because if we have a person that's depressed because they lost their job, or because the bank foreclosed on their home, or because they have problems within the marriage, or because there was a child, their child died, these are the things now that will help you. It will direct you in terms of what intervention is needed. Do they need a grant to help in terms of food? Do they need support in terms of counseling? Do they need in terms of marriage problems? Do they need couples therapy? Things like that. And so the things that would have led to the depression in the first place, you have to address it. So if you just give medicine and if you just give counseling and you don't address those issues, then the person is at risk for becoming depressed again, and that doesn't make sense. So you have to address all three areas, and within the social interventions, that's where you have, it's not, it's the government, it's NGOs such as Pearl organizations, it's community-based organizations, faith-based organizations such as churches. These all play a role, as well as your family, in excuse me, providing the social interventions that are necessary. Above everything, prevention is better than cure. How do we prevent it? Build our resilience. So the way that I always talk about um, building resilience is the holes in the bucket concept. So there's a bucket and you fill it. And what happens? When you fill it, it gets to the top, it overflows. If we think about our brain as a bucket and we keep piling in stress, work stress, family stress, illness stress, money stress, we just put it in. Stress from things endured in childhood, and you keep piling it in. And the bucket fills. When that bucket is filled and it overflows, that is what we call mental illness. What we have to do is puncture that bucket in different places, put some holes in our bucket. And what are those holes? Self care, things like exercise, um, making sure you eat right, get enough sunlight, get enough rest. These are the things. Make sure that you're building your faith. These are the things that will create resilience. So your self care, thinking positively, encouraging yourself, taking things in perspective, realizing that this, whatever you're going through, it will pass. Now, I'm saying these are, we're talking prevention. If a person already is depressed, you can't say to them, think positive. You could, when they're getting along in their journey to recovery, you could say that. But at the point where they're clinically depressed, they don't have that ability at that time to just say, okay, I'm going to think positive now. If that's the case, then they're not truly depressed, right? So we're talking prevention. So thinking positive from the beginning helps in preventing depression. And then associate yourself with positive people. Make sure that you're taking part in things that bring you joy, whatever brings you joy. If it is outdoor activities or time with the family or games, whatever gives you joy, you take part in that, because when you bring that joy, then um, it helps in building your resilience. All right, and make sure you're exercising. That's a big point there. Get exercise. Exercise, as we know, releases endorphins. Endorphins make us happy, right? So you exercise, and especially when you exercise in the sunshine, because sun plays a role in serotonin development in the body. And that's why people who go through long winter, dark months, they could have mental illness such as seasonal affective disorder, etc. So you want to exercise and you want to get sun and surround yourself with people who care about you. And when you know that there's a problem, be sure to seek help.
Amazing. Thank you, Dr. Briggs Paul. You are amazing.